You listed your home, put it on the market, and it didn't sell. Well, let me tell you one thing right now before I go for another minute. There is a reason it didn't sell. Question is, what's the reason? These next two videos on this page, I'm going to go over several reasons that you may not have sold. It could have been a contributing factor or the factor. You'll have to decide that, but I am almost certain that if your listing did not expire, you're going to find some things on here that are just not adding up, and they're costing you money, lots of money. One of the things that you will see that I call your attention to several times is the commission and how this is spread around at different amounts. First of all, let me tell you this. I've talked to a lot of people who've had an expired listing, and I asked them almost to a person, do you care how the buyer's agent represented him? Most people look at me like I'm from Mars. They have no idea what I'm talking about, yet that's part of the problem that happened to them. Could very well have happened to you. It's too lengthy to try to go into all the details about this, so I'm going to cut this short. In the state of Florida, there are three types of notices that a buyer's agent has to give his buyer. They're called agencies. One is a single agency, one is a transaction broker agency, and one is a non-representative broker's agency. It simply describes the duties that are owed to the buyer if he works with that agent. There's some other information about the buyer, but we'll go into that later. Somebody in their infinite wisdom decided that those different agencies could be offered different commissions. So what I'm getting at is this, and this is very important to you if you had an expired listing. It may be the very well reason that your listing expired. And if you're thinking of putting your house on the market, pay close attention. I see this over and over again, and I'm seeing it more today than ever. First of all, I'll just give you some examples. If you listed your home and gave your listing broker or agent a 6% commission, you probably, more likely than not, expected the listing broker to take 3% and then give 3% to the other guy, the buyer's agent. Well, that's just not what's happening in a lot of cases, and especially in expired listings. Why that is, I've got a good idea. I think you'll catch on real quick. But let's just say those three options, and you'll see them. I'm going to point them out to you when I show you what's below the gray line, and I'll describe that to you so you'll get on with it. You'll see that there's maybe, I'm going to give you some examples, a 3% commission offered to a single agent, a 2% commission offered to a transaction broker's agent, and maybe 1% offered to the non-representative agent. Well, first question I would have is if you gave your listing broker a 6% commission and expected it to be split 3 and 3, but he got away with 2 on one of the other agents, that means somebody's earning 4%. Where's that extra percent going? Is that coming back to you, or is that just going into your listing broker's pocket? I've seen much worse than that. I've seen some offering, you'll see some on what I'm about to show you in one of these next videos, offered 0%. Well, why are there different agencies in different ways in the first place? Well, I'm not going to go into all of that, but I am going to tell you that there are some real estate brokers, some that work on their own, some that work in small agencies, some that work in big agencies that just don't want to attract the attorneys by having errors and omissions insurance. That's kind of a target for attorneys to aim at to get easy settlements, because insurance companies, it's just business. They pay off the attorneys and call that part of the same kind of expense that you do with paying the light bill. Be that right or wrong is not up to me to decide, but that's what's happening. And it's just not fair, and if you're not being told the full story, in my opinion, that's just wrong. And why is that important? Well, you see, real estate agents are people, and people do a lot of things in order to get paid more money. You've got teachers going on strike as I'm making this video. You've had automobile workers literally shut down plants because they wanted a better deal. You've got football players that go on strike and don't play games. I could go on and on and on. You get the picture. Real estate agents are reluctant to sell property where they're making less than a fair commission. Here's an example. If you're a buyer's agent and you've got a buyer that wants to spend a certain amount of money, let's just say $300,000, and he wants to live in Lake Washington part of Melbourne. Well, you've got a whole bunch of choices of houses that he needs to look at. And one of the things that most agents look at probably first is the commission. And if there's 15 of those houses, and say 8 or 9 of them are offering 3%, and there's 1 or 2, maybe 3 that are offering 2.5%, and then there's some yo-yo on there that's offering 2% or 1%, guess which house is not going to get shown? Now, about the 2 videos below. The first one is involved with what happens when putting your house on the market to attract buyers over the internet. The second video is what's called Realtor to Realtor Marketing. Realtor to Realtor Marketing is what one realtor is saying to the other that should be marketing or making it attractive. I'm going to show you a lot of examples where it's just the opposite of that. Why is that important? Well, Realtor to Realtor Marketing accounts for almost 80% of every sale that happens. That is, you've got 2 realtors, chances are they're working for different companies. They get together and co-broke a deal. That is, one has the buyer, one has the seller. They try to keep them apart so they'll get together. Kind of a little realtor term we made up a long time ago. Anyway, another thing that we see on there that I think the listing agent is sneaking by, I think I have one of these an example, is they're offering a reduced commission or a muddled commission to certain agencies according to how they represent. And then in the Realtor to Realtor remarks, they put something in there like the commission above is subject to a $395 broker fee. And what they're saying is that you're not going to make the commission that's shown here, the 2.5% or 3%. You are going to be deducted, or there is going to be a $395 fee deducted from that. I'll just be willing to bet there's not a seller out there that knew that in advance. That's just some way that that particular agent has found that he can stuff some more money in his pocket. I do know there is a large brokerage company, a national company actually, that does have a transaction fee that they charge to all of their agents, somewhat as a storage fee or some crap like that that they label on it, and they do allow them to charge that either to the seller or the co-broking agent. And I don't think they've got enough nerve to go to the agent and say, 6% commission is normal, do that, and oh, by the way, because I work here, there's an additional $395 that you have to pay. So they dig that out on the, they put that on the MLS so that the agent who represents the buyer is subject to pay that. And I can tell you there's not very many agents like that. They see that and they'll dodge that house about as fast as they will the ones with the 2% commission. It's just not good. And who it is that's getting hurt in that is the seller. Because I can tell you, if you don't have the agents on your side, then they're on the other side. And that means lower prices for you, less showings, expired listings. I'm going to show you how to get around all of that, and hope you make use of this information. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to pick up the phone and call me. I'll be glad to discuss it with you.